Good morning, Gloucester. It is Gloucestercast 297, September 16th, 2018. We're past the sweltering heat. We're cruising it. Have you noticed? Yeah. Have you noticed that the mornings it's darker? Yeah. It seems like it really went quickly to like.
It did seem like the shade just went up or down or whichever. At night, I've noticed it at night especially.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I noticed it in the morning because I get here so early, and it's like it seems like forever before
the day, like,
before you get to see and stuff.
And the sun is lower, so the light's getting more interesting, right?
Oh, yeah. The best photos. Best photos like late May, early June, and then this time.
And starting now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Nubar Alexanian is here.
Yeah.
You can say hi.
Good morning.
John Bell, former mayor, is here.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you know what, John? Can we speak about the GMGI as well, besides the other project? Okay, great. Pat and Jimmy Dalpiaz are here.
Good morning, Gloucester.
When are you leaving?
When am I leaving?
Do I have
in
you?
the morning.
Thank you for staying.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Just to see you today.
It's always a pleasure. And Kim Smith is here.
Good morning, Gloucester.
Nubar, excuse me. You've been working on a project about the green crabs in the Great Marsh, a video that's going to be debuted to the public when?
Well, we're going to screen it on Tuesday at Cape Ann
Community Cinema.
Cape Ann Theater, I think it's called now. Interestingly, I've been working on it for about 15 months, and we ended up with two edits. Excuse me, an 11-minute version and an 8-minute version. So I thought it'd be interesting to screen it. This is not a premiere of the movie. This is a screening with local folks to just show an audience the 11-minute version and the 8-minute version and see their response and just to hear what people say about it.
Get some good feedback. Yeah.
John, what was your involvement in this?
I carry Nubar's bags for him. But like all of us, we all have a little bit of salt in our veins. And I first time Nubar showed me the film, I said, I've heard about green crabs. John Sultan, who keeps his boat, my dock, lobsterman, tells me about green crabs all the time. But this movie brought me home to what this is all about. This is critical that all of us that live on the waterfront, live in Gloucester, live on the Great Marsh, have got to get up to date on. And I think Nubar lit the fuse in the film.
Well, I watched it this morning with Jimmy and Pat. It's interesting to me being around as many lobstermen as I'm around on a daily basis. I had no idea that there was a green crab issue, and these are guys that are on the water all the time. No one's mentioned to me that there's a green crab issue.
They're out further, right? So
no, they're in the marsh. Further, the marsh is, you can't get closer than the marsh. The marsh is where everything starts.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No, yeah. Well, they're in the marsh, right?
Well,
even with the eelgrass.
I spend a lot of time in the marsh fishing for striped bass over, the last few decades. And I had no idea until June 2017 that there were millions back then, millions and millions of green crabs in the marsh. So I just started shooting, and really the whole goal of this movie is it's just a wake-up call. It's just like, hey everybody, there's billions. The scientists saying there are billions and billions of green crabs in the Great Marsh. Who love clams, they love shellfish. They've already wiped out mussels in Essex Bay and in the Essex River. So the question is what are we going to do? But first of all, who knows about it? Well, no, not a lot of people know about it.
Listen, I think that I would know, and I have not heard one thing. The only thing that I've heard about green crabs in the past 2 or 3 years was that Billy Manise was harvesting them, and I'm like, who would eat a green crab? The green crab is there's no meat on a green crab. I don't even want to bother with Jonah crabs because Jonah crabs are this big, and I don't even bother with, and I can take them home for free, and I don't bother taking them home for free because. To me, there's so much work for not a lot of meat. I love crab meat. Crab meat is one of my favorite seafoods. I'll take a crab meat roll over any other seafood. That would be my number one thing.
Well, here's the
I love
thing.
it.
Here's the thing about green crabs. You're right about. There's no meat in them. They're not worth a lot. And but the roe from green crabs that can be harvested in the fall is really spectacular. I mean, I have never tasted anything quite like it. And so there is, you know, the whole approach to the green crabs has to be, you know, how do we keep pressure on them? They're not going to go away, but how do we keep them from getting really out of control? Well, one of the things is to eat the future. Eat the eggs.
Yeah.
And there's a real part of the solution is there.
So, are you gonna ever put the recipe in with the film? And how would you get the roe? Like, so say you want to get some roe to make some soup. How would you do that?
Both good questions. So there is a cookbook out online. If you go to Roger Warner, who is the main person in the movie, he has a site called Green Crab R&D, and he and his folks put together so far an 8 recipe book about how to make broth with green crabs, which is quite.
Oh, I bet it's delicious.
And your second question is, so you can. What they do is they have to. It's kind of intensive. They have to separate the males from the females, and then they deliver the females to Ipswich Shellfish, and they will process them. And I think it's like $50 a pound.
And are they shipping
What?
this?
Oh, for the roe, you mean?
For the roe.
Yeah,
Are they
'cause
shipping
it's-
this
yeah.
to the south where there's?
I don't know. Actually, I mean,
What are they
it's.
doing with it? Yeah.
I know there are people. There are fish people in different parts of the country who really want this roe. I don't know how. I'm not sure. You'd have to talk with Roger, and he'll be there Tuesday night to answer these kind of questions. To find out like where in the process are they? I mean, are they gonna? Because the more the more roe they can get, the more they can sell, and the more pressure will be on the crabs. I don't know how an individual would get it, but different chefs in town have tested it, and they're just like.
So Ipswich is pretty much you got to contact Ipswich if you want to get some of this roe, or
I think so.
if
I
somebody
think
wants to try it, or
I think I think what you'd have to do is go to Green Crab R&D
Go to the website
and
we'll
ask
find out more.
ask Roger that question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I think yes, they're still.
I wish Roger
processing.
would let you, because it would be really awesome, like when the film shows, if you can just hand out a recipe. You know what I mean? Maybe Roger will.
That's a really good idea.
That
I'd
is-
like to try it.
That's a great idea.
That's a
Yeah,
great
me
idea.
too.
The only thing
Like, I
I'd
would
like to
love
try
to
it.
try
I'm gonna tell you right now, if they had like like they always do with the seafood shows, like a big crock pot full of a little Dixie cup just so people could try. I guarantee you. I bet you the broth is silky delicious. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But that would go a long way. People think food
Right. That's the way
motivates
that-
people.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how I got my
No.
book published with my publisher. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no,
that's
no.
how I got David Godine to be my publisher.
I bribe people all the
Yeah.
time with barbecue. It happens.
Yeah.
Motivate.
David Godine's a great publisher.
Yeah.
Wow.
He came up to my house for lunch and I gave him lobster and homemade clam chowder and apple pie.
Telling you.
Yeah.
I
There
got
would have
my
been
book
some roe in
published.
there if only you'd known.
But hopefully the film's going to grow demand in roe. I mean, that's one of the objectives of the film is get people talking.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I knew about green crabs was the name green crab.
Yeah.
And John Sullivan's told me that Gloucester Harvest is loaded with green crab, and he said if there becomes a business out there where people like Essex Shellfish or North Coast or other harvesters, even yourself, have a demand for them and he can put traps down, he said he won't have to leave the harbor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting. It'd be.
Well,
I mean, everybody likes to make money. Everything you can handle is extra money going over the dock.
Well,
And
that's
there
the
certainly isn't a lot of other stuff coming in.
Right.
Well, that's the thing about problems like this that need to be solved. I mean, so there's just, for example, the town of Ipswich allocates a certain amount of money to pay trappers to trap them for compost. That's not really sustainable, right? Because no one's making any money there. But if people are buying this roe
And it's a delicacy.
Right,
It
it's a
becomes
delicacy.
Yeah, it needs to be a
Right.
you know what? It needs to be a delicacy
Yeah.
because each crab, what you're going to get, how much you're going to get out of it's not going to be an ounce.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about
Well, the
What?
roe.
The roe.
A single female crab can lay as many as 185,000 eggs.
right, but I've seen green
They're
crabs.
small.
Green crabs are this big; they don't weigh an ounce.
Right.
So you're not out of a green crab, you're not getting an ounce of roe because
Correct.
that doesn't take up that much of their body. So to mess with I'm saying the roe that you do get out of it
Right.
per ounce has to be
Right.
huge money to make the whole thing work.
Yep.
Right, and it has to be absolutely has to be marketed as a delicacy.
Right, 'cause
You're right,
it-
just
it-
like caviar,
Right.
because it's so
It is
intensive.
caviar, right.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, this has been going on. Like Rachel Carson was writing about green crabs in the 1960s, and
Really?
and global climate change in the 1960s. But of course, everybody was just too busy laughing at her first, had her book Silent Spring.
Yeah.
But she was writing. She was dying of cancer when Silent Spring came out, but then she was in the process of writing a book about climate change, and that was one of the things that she was noticing was this invasion of green crabs on the coast of Maine
Wow,
That's
in the
the-
1960s.
that's interesting.
In 1950 was the last time that the green crabs exploded like they are now.
In
In 1950.
1950.
And that's when the water temperatures increased for some reason. Nobody knows why.
Okay.
And then they died off a bunch, so...
Well, I'll
Okay,
tell you
very
this.
cyclical.
Tell me that.
2 years ago, down here at the dock, before 2 years ago, there'd be a handful of Jonah crabs that come in a day. A handful. If we handled 100 pounds, it was a lot. 2 years ago, for 1 year, every boat was bringing in 200 or 300 pounds of Jonah crab. Completely. I'm talking about, I've been here since I was 9 years old. I'm 50, so back then so that's a sample size of 37 years, right?
41 years. 9 to
41.
9. Right.
But it was 2 years ago.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Right? So
39.
so up until that point, they had never been.
That many.
Never been. I mean,
So wait,
I'm
so-
telling you, out of like 80
So
lobstermen,
that was 2016.
100 pounds.
That was 2016.
And then, 2 years ago,
Yeah,
1 year,
right.
just every boat bringing in 2. Some boats bringing in 500 pounds.
What about now?
Wow.
Back to like barely any.
So like
Just one. You ask the lobstermen.
right.
No one has an explanation for it. It's not like climate change doesn't happen overnight, right? It's gradual. We can all agree it doesn't. It's not today we have climate change. We didn't have it last year. It's something that happens gradually. This spike does not correlate with
Right, with
with
temperature.
temperature.
Right.
It's a 1 year aberration. The following year, right back to
Well,
normal.
when that
And it was
happens-
guys that were fishing in Boston Harbor, Rockport, Gloucester. There's not one guy could tell you what that was about.
When that happens with birds and butterflies, it's called an eruption in a species, and there's no real. I mean, you can sometimes you can trace it to something happening in the weather, and sometimes you can't. I wonder if it's called the same with fish species and
Marine
crabs.
wildlife,
and
yeah.
marine
I mean, the thing that I've learned, I mean, I knew this before, but I didn't know it like I do now, which is that it's a nursery out there.
wildlife.
I mean, that's what the marsh is.
Is.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
feeder.
Come in,
It's a
right.
feeder system. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So, something like that could happen and be unexplained. I mean, all of this is really the result of the increase in water temperature in the Gulf of Maine, which they haven't really understood.
Well, it's rising
Can I
faster
answer?
than- it's
So
rising
I'll tell you
faster.
what some of lobstermen say about why there's more different species along the coast.
Okay.
What they attribute it to is the sewering of all of these of a lot of places. But I don't know if that is the case. They don't have sewer in Essex, do they? Or do
Yes. Well, they used Gloucester.
They use Gloucester.
they? So now is that something? Because before
That's a good point.
all
Good
of these
point.
detergents, everything was going right into the marsh. It wasn't a hospitable place
It was
for
hospitable, right?
for these species.
Right,
Could
good
be.
point.
Now with the cleanups,
Right.
they're
Well, that's why we have otters.
that's why we have otters, right?
Right.
That's why I have a lot
Beavers
of
and
different
otters,
species.
right.
I am not an expert.
Right.
I'm just relaying to you what the men that are on the waterfront and on the water tell me on a daily basis.
It's a good. I mean, I haven't heard that before,
Yeah, but
but it
that's
makes
really
sense to
good.
me. I
It's
mean,
very
if the water's
logical.
cleaner and more hospitable.
Right.
I
That's
mean,
very logical.
it was only a couple years ago that we all of East Gloucester we had pipes.
Right.
It was there was sewer. There were
Every kind of pipe.
every kind of pipe.
Yeah.
Right.
Every kind of pipe. And they and just in the past, like it was probably 10 years ago, 10 years ago, DPW came by and capped off everything.
Right, but again, so this film does not. I don't go too far into that. I mean, I do mention climate change, but I don't want to hit that too hard. I mean, because climate change is something for everybody that's really big, and it's true, and I feel that way
And it's
personally
really
about
happening
it.
all around.
But
us.
this, I specifically chose 4 towns that are connected to each other to see what's going on in each town, and to sort of make the point that if one town has an effort to deal with green crabs and the other 3 don't, then it's not a solution.
Right.
So, and this is going on all the way up to Nova Scotia, and is on both coasts of North and South America.
When did they come into the California coast? Like in the 50s?
Yeah,
So-
well, actually, I was going to include. There's this one short film that takes place in Puget Sound where these 2 marine biologists walking. They are responsible for this one marsh, and they check it out every day. And they found 1 male green crab 3 years ago, and they put out 150 traps. And in this film, one of the biologists looks into the camera and says, "You might think that that's extreme, but we're talking about green crabs."
Right.
And then I wanted to cut to the GoPro shot of in our trap filling up like in 3 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Right. So, but they are, terrified of them losing their marsh in Puget Sound, and they know what that looks like. So we're way beyond that. I mean, we'll never be down to 1 green crab ever. That will never happen.
Seals don't, because seals are a big eater of them, right? Seals
Are
eat
they?
them. Yeah.
Seals eat the green
Seals
crabs?
Eat green crabs. So I was wondering, but they don't come into the marsh. They're
Yeah, they come into the Essex River.
They do. How
Yeah.
far? Yeah.
Just in the and not
They're-
into the not
they're
way
at
up.
the beginning. They're more at the beginning. They don't go way
Right.
down. Right.
I'll tell you one thing we don't want is an explosion of seals.
Right.
They're nasty.
Well, they are. I mean, there's an we
I
have a
know.
lot on Cape Cod. There's a lot on Cape Cod.
No, I know. Everybody's.
thousands.
People tell me you see these helicopter shots and
Yeah,
these
you
drone
fly
videos
over
of these.
It's
as
like
far
10
as the eye can see, they're like schools of pogies that you just for miles.
Right.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of seals on Monomoy
Right.
Island.
The only question is, if
Yeah.
there are so many seals, how come there are no fish?
Yeah.
Right.
According to some.
Well, they eat
Not
a lot.
according to me, but
Right.
according to
They
some.
Right.
Yeah, they eat a
So-
lot of
So
fish.
Tuesday night, your film that you said you don't really call it a preview. You just kind of want to see how everybody feels about it. How's that going to work? What are you going to do? Like a question and answer after?
Yeah,
it?
so
or fill out a thing. What do you think, folks?
Just people will
Just get a
come
friend.
and a lot of the people that are in the movie will be there. People that have supported the movie, and just people who are interested. A lot of science people, I think, will be there as well. So what I'll do is I'll introduce the whole idea and show the 11-minute version first, and then just talk. Just find out. Just have a short conversation about what they saw, how they feel, what they think, and then show the 8-minute version. And the only difference I can say without giving anything away is that between the 11 and the 8-minute version is that the 8-minute version deals more with the crab problem and less with the destruction of the marsh, the structure of the marsh. We just minimize that to increase the focus on the crabs, because that's really the whole point of the movie, is to say, this is a wake-up call. This is going on. This is for real. We don't know. We don't know all about all these things, but we do know that they are there, and there's more today than there were yesterday, and they're going to be more tomorrow. And that's the whole point of the movie. And also, my goal sort of is like, so there's all of these really great groups of people that are working in the marsh trying to figure out what to do. They need resources, but not enough people know about it. Like Bruce Tarr didn't know about it until he saw the trailer. So those people need to know about it so that those groups can get more access to more resources, and so they can figure out, like, well, what are we going to do here?
I'm interested to talk to some of for this. No one is in the Essex River more, or we call Essex River, right? Is this what we're talking about? The clammers.
Right.
They're down on the front lines. I like to talk to some clammers and say, "You notice this thing about the
I see
green
them a
crab?"
lot. I'll ask
Yeah.
them.
Well, Toby, the Jupiter too. He goes clamming, but I don't know.
Interestingly, the clamming this year in Ipswich, at least, they've had a banner year for clams. But so the crabs are not needing to eat them at this point. But up in Maine, and there are places where they've lost 80% of the clams. So the clammers are now gardeners. They have these plastic walls that they bury into, and then their seed clams go in there, and that's what they harvest.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at eventually.
So Nubar, Tuesday night, Cape Ann Community Cinema. What time? Are you kicking things off?
7:30 Tuesday night. It'll be about an hour and 15 minutes long. We'll screen both versions and be an interesting night. Should be interesting.
Well,
It
thank
does
you.
sound interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in. Kim, are you going? Or do you have other things?
I
I'm
have-
sorry to put you on the
No,
spot.
you know what? I'm praying that I can go. I have a huge thing on Wednesday, so.
I know you like to support Nubar's projects.
Yeah, I'm praying I can go, but honestly, I don't want to say I can because I have a huge thing on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So.
I get you. All right. Well, maybe we can get someone else to go. Kim did a post last night that we will link to in the show notes that will which will.
Right, it has the flyer, but it also links to, you can see the trailer, and it takes you right to Nubar's website.
Perfect. Thank you guys for coming in.
Pleasure. Thank you for having us.
All right. We have so greencrabrnd.com as well
Right,
has that's
I think it's .org. Let me check.
.org. Okay.
They'll have the recipes.
Right.
Yeah,
that's what
check
we're
out the
doing.
recipes. Yeah, I'm excited about
Pat and Jimmy, you were at the visitor center recently?
Well, I was at the visitor center because I took up some volunteer time there. I have a shift to help out at the visitor center, and I was so impressed with the building. I didn't really know that much about the stone building, and it's so beautiful.
it.
And
So beautiful.
it's so beautiful, and I could sit
Don't they
right
have
in the-
WPA murals there too?
I did not see anything
I've never
there.
seen that before either.
I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
I'm
I
gonna
think
look.
they might.
I'm
They
gonna
do.
Look next time then.
I know.
Yeah.
I know they do. I just
Okay.
don't know if it's still up or if it was being
Yeah.
restored or something. But when I
Right.
remember we were in.
Yeah, and my point was going to be, first of all, that it's beautiful and you can just sit there and look out over the harbor, and it's just a really nice little respite. But for residents who might not have been there recently, there's a lot of information available.
I remember Carol Mondello, who's kind of like the director there
She's
right
the
now.
one that I've been in contact with about shifts and
She said that
whatnot.
they're looking for people to fill
Yep.
these shifts right
Yeah,
now.
they're open until Columbus Day.
Yeah.
So 3-hour shifts. They're open, I think, something like from 9 to 6.
What have been some of your experiences there? Have you met some nice people?
Well, my first shift, the power went out.
Was that a citywide thing or just
It was over. A tree went down on Bond Street, and it
Oh,
affected,
right, yeah.
one day this week. So that was kind of interesting. Yes, I've met some very probably the most interesting people, though, are residents of Gloucester.
Yeah.
Have been the most interesting so far.
Do people come in from Gloucester and asking you questions?
Yes.
Really?
Yes,
That's
or just to
interesting.
talk or whatever, you know.
I
That-
love it there. The restroom is so nicely maintained. It's
Yes.
so
They are.
pristine.
It's
I mean,
incredible. My wife,
Yeah, they did
wife
make
Jan
it.
works up there on Tuesdays.
I don't think I've met her yet, but
with Carol McNeil, and she
Uh-huh.
said, she said, "Some folks from the West Coast come, and they never see sunrises on the West Coast.
Right.
So she puts them up on the on the back shore, and every time she does it, it's raining out, and they don't.
oh,
And
yeah.
she has to live with herself.
One couple came in from South Carolina. This is as the hurricane was approaching, and they live on the coast and just happened to be up here on vacation. And I was like, oh my goodness, you must be frantic. And they were like, no. They were very relaxed about it. It's like, what's going to happen is going to happen. And
That's a good
yeah,
attitude.
But people do come in from everywhere just in the short amount of time I've done it.
We taped, I think we taped a podcast and a homie cast.
Yeah, that was super fun.
Were you there?
Yeah, for the for both. It was fun.
And
During
on the
the-
deck there,
Yeah.
facing the Antonio Gentile bandstand.
Uh-huh.
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
Oh, yeah,
I remember
that was
thinking at the
beautiful.
time, like, I could do this every week right here.
Right.
It's just
right.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was during the farmers market.
Are you familiar with the latest plans? I remember last year or the year before, they were really trying to like do some kind of changes in the way the layout was. Or Kim, are you familiar with
A
what's
little
going
bit.
on?
They're trying to connect. What I think is really good about it is they're trying to connect Stage Fort Park with Ravenswood. So I think that's part of a
Really?
yeah, which would be so awesome, right? Because right now people have to like cut through, go on the street, cut through. You know what I mean?
How
So-
Yeah,
how would
how
that
would that
happen?
Yeah, I'm not exactly
That
sure,
would
but
be-
that's part of the
that would
the
be,
plan. There's one little street that you can go down, and then you face Stage Fort Ravenswood. So, and then there's also talk about moving the farmers market to the parking lot and making this whole step system. They're trying to get it organized by the 400th centennial.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's mixed feelings about that because
Yeah,
the
I
farmers
hear
market
s-
people
yeah.
like where they're
Like where they are.
and so we'll see what the plans are. I know they're working on the plans. Community development is working on plans.
What about bringing? Is it possible to bring Cressy's back to a beach? I know it's got all that ballast
Oh
that
my God.
comes up every time we have a storm and
Yeah.
throws it over the wall like softballs. But
Yeah.
is that
I don't know.
possible?
I don't know because it shifts so much it shifts so much like at places like Winthrop Beach they're adding rocks and stone, right? And here we're trying to get rid of some of maybe we can work out something with Winthrop.
I grew up. My grandmother
She lived right
lived
up the
right
street.
behind
That
the
little
cupboard. Yeah.
cupboard, right.
And so my grandfather was down here working. Her sisters, she had 15 siblings. They knit underneath the trees right across from the
Aw.
cupboard. But as kids,
That's so-
my mother would
that's
drop
the
us off
treasure.
with my grandmother and stuff, and we'd be on that beach. That was a beach. That was a legit beach.
A real beach.
Not
yeah.
long
Yeah,
ago.
no, it wasn't. And Half Moon's the best beach in the world.
Oh my God.
She was
Is that
beautiful. Well,
a
because they have
gem or
shade.
what?
What other beaches have shade?
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
it's just
I don't like to tell people about Oaks Cove Beach. The Rocky Neck people don't want you to know about it either. Shh. I get in trouble every time I mention it. And then we also get in trouble because some people say it's not called Oaks Cove Beach, it's
Right.
something else, and then we
Smith
get in a big.
Cove, right.
Oh my
It is.
God.
It is Oaks Cove.
Yep.
There you go. Well, there you go.
Right.
One party heard from. I'm sure we're going to hear from the other party. My family was here back in the... Oh, God almighty in heaven. Trust me.
Well, I know we had that fight like 5 years ago, right? Like,
No, it's a recurring thing. Every 3 years, we forget not to mention it. And then I mention it inadvertently, and then we get the wrath from the people that
well,
feel
we can
different.
just just head them off right now and say if you look at the maps, it's called Oaks Cove Beach on the maps.
I'd like to refer it as the place where we go, not skinny dipping in the, New Year's Day.
Yes.
The Rocky
Oh,
Mountain,
yeah.
the plunge.
Old maps, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Old maps, not
Yeah.
me recent maps.
Kim, you've been busy editing like crazy.
Yes, yeah, I'm very excited that.
I rarely see you. She used to stop in, and we'd have coffee once or twice a week. For the past 2 years now, I feel like you have so many projects. She literally has 15 projects going on at the same time.
It's also like being babysitting now
Yeah.
quite a bit for my granddaughter, so that has, as I adore all every minute that we spend together, but it's taken away from my editing time. So
Their ages?
yeah, she's just one, and she's 14 months. So, and she's very, very, very active.
Of course.
And more to come.
Right.
My, you have an active child. I would always hear him like, I know what that translates to. Yeah.
So
what have you been working on?
So I'm in the final stages of all the footage that I've taken over the last 3 years, adding that to the Monarch film, and just this clip that I hated, axing that out, putting a new 10 times more beautiful one in. So I'll have all that done. I'm hoping Tuesday, and then except for one part of the life cycle part, and then so that's my goal right now, and then it's going to an editor. So a final, sound mixer editor. So
Color correcting.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of I did so much myself that I don't really know. I need a lot of help with sound mixing because I've recorded so much beautiful Foley, and I don't have the levels right. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to lose all the. I very specifically recorded audio in the spring when spring things are happening, or audio in the summer. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to just have canned Foley that because somebody who really knows about birds would say, well, you would never hear that bird at that time of year or whatever.
Right,
But
right.
just because I really wanted to be as authentic as possible. So I love it, and I've carved out this chunk of time for myself, except for babysitting and my clients. My business winds down a little bit. I have another big push for fall, but so that's what I'm working on.
Very exciting. It's been a
Wow,
labor
it
of
is
love
exciting
for
to
a
hear.
long time.
Yeah.
Nubar, this is something that I'm sure Nubar can identify with.
Yeah.
Long
There is
projects
only
coming
one
to a
film.
head.
I can identify with audio levels being right and all that stuff. I mean, it's really, it takes a village.
Especially when you're doing something on a professional level,
Right.
as opposed to the videos that I. So yesterday, we shot Craig and I shot a video. And I shouldn't even put Craig's name in the conversation because I don't want him to get discredited by my hacky editing. Because I tried it. It's a different thing, right? You guys are doing professional, level work. I'm trying to get information out as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Damn the miscues.
Right.
To the
Right.
widest audience.
To the widest audience. So we did this barbecue demo in 6 segments, and we did it so that literally all I did was trim off a second or two off of the start and finish of each different clip, put it into a program,
Right.
add the titles, end credits, and
Right.
literally I did that in 45 minutes.
Great.
And thanks to the brilliance of Craig shooting.
Yeah. Well,
No,
Craig,
but,
Craig's awesome shooter.
Yeah, I don't want. I shouldn't even talk about.
When is that?
I shouldn't even talk
when are you
about
going
myself.
to post those? When are you going to post those?
I post them just. I'm going to post this today, but don't worry about my little barbecue addiction. It's it's more of a.
We all enjoy your barbecue addiction. I
Yes,
have to
we do.
say. Sometimes we get to have a physical taste of it, and sometimes it's more.
I really enjoy it. For me, it's the process is.
Passion is passion.
That's what it is.
Right? You have it, and she has it for this movie, which is I've seen early cuts of it.
She gets up every day.
incredible.
She's up almost at the same time as I am, running down to all the places where she knows where the wildlife
See,
is
the
going to be.
secret is there are 6 Kim Smiths. There has to be.
Has to
right?
be. Yeah, she's
She's
incredible.
everywhere all the time.
I don't know how she gets done what she gets
I
done.
saw some amazing stuff this morning in the fog. It was just so oh my
The
god.
otters are so. I love the otter.
Oh, the
the otter
otters
ones.
were unbelievable.
Yeah.
The photographs were amazing.
Those
Yeah.
otters are.
That was breathtaking.
They're so playful.
They're so playful. Did you know?
Have you seen any? Have you seen any? Have you seen any?
In
Or
real
where you
life.
live, you probably
Yeah,
see
they're over
stuff
there.
like that.
Yeah, they're
I haven't seen them there.
I saw otters twice in the past 4 years,
right here in the water.
right here
Yeah,
off of the dock,
right.
playing and fleeting. It was literally for like
Fleeting.
3 or 4 minutes, and then I had to go do something, and they were gone.
Well, you
But
know,
to see them out of the blue in the ocean,
it's
like
beautiful,
playing on
isn't
my
it?
dock over here, they're the most mischievous,
Right.
funniest little. I don't. If I had to come back in something other than a human, I want to come back as an otter. I'm not joking. And I know because I was when I read your and I don't read all your posts, but I read this one because I'm interested in the otters, and the way you described it was exactly my experience watching them. How playful
How
they
playful.
were.
They have such a strong family bond too. It's really, I think it's extraordinary to
Every
watch.
time I see what she's doing that she posts, whether it's video or pictures of these birds and otters and whatever, I'm convinced that she has something.
The whisperer.
The whisperer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's the
No,
otter.
because I mean, they will do all these things for her. I mean,
She does have some great equipment. Not that she doesn't know how to use it, because you have to know how to use it. But she has
but
that
it's more than
really
just-
nice lens.
Well, I have a very nice 100-400 millimeter lens, but when I'm with other photographers, they have 600 millimeter lenses.
but they're not
I
getting
can-
what you get.
Right.
No, but
No, she gets it.
she spent so much time. This is the only way this can happen
is true.
is by putting the time in the field.
That's
You know
right.
this.
Exactly.
You know this.
That's what I mean.
Patience
Patience
alone.
to wait.
Yeah.
The passion is passion, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's.
Yeah.
She's got it, and we
No
all
question.
benefit from that.
Well,
Yeah.
I credit Monarchs with it because, like, I used to do, I was doing landscape design with, attracting birds and butterflies and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I saw the Monarchs coming across Massachusetts Bay, and I was photographing them, and I said at that time, the next time I see this, I'm going to have the ability to document it on film. And
Yeah.
so
Oh, there
that's
you go.
And how long ago was that?
that was in 2006. So.
See, there you go.
So I started documenting them in 2006 through photography,
Yeah.
but by
And the blog started in 2007.
2007. But I
And
didn't.
when did I
start-
take you on?
Maybe like 2010. Or
I think
something.
it was
Yeah,
2010.
2010.
Yeah, you and Donna are like within a month of each other, and it was like right around November or October, because I knew my vacation time was coming up, but I needed people to fill time slots, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you so much. Tony Gross cut his second,
Third, right?
his-
Isn't it third?
his third, but second in a month,
Month, right.
Seahorse
Right.
in Ipswich Bay,
Right.
which is kind of is really funky and cool. At the same, so this past week as well, I've had a bunch of my lobstermen have caught bonita
Really?
up in Ipswich Bay,
Wow.
which is another thing.
They're amazing to catch. They're like little tuna.
Little baby, yeah, like
Yeah,
little baby
and
tuna.
they're very strong.
Right.
Very
Do
strong.
they have super sharp teeth? Yeah.
They do
That's-
have
yeah.
little baby teeth. At first, I couldn't. I was trying to think of the name, and then I'm like, oh, it is bonita. That's what it was.
So-
But isn't that cool? Though? Like
Yeah.
usually
So-
we don't get these strange species.
Although they like
They're southern.
they like warmer water, so that
Yeah,
because partly because the water is warmer.
And
I'm sure.
is that why the seahorses are? I wonder. Do they like?
Is it?
Do they? I don't know. That would be interesting to find out.
Maybe, but
Because he's caught one. Tony Gross has caught like one, like every other year or whatever. But to catch three like that,
we caught 2 in the past month,
and
and then the previous one was last year or the year before.
the water is walking warm to go swimming. Like
Yeah,
and it's September, which is so
Well,
unusual.
yeah.
So,
Well, we had the
later
warmest. The
September.
warmest. Was it the warmest since when? Since the 40s or something?
Oh, I don't know. The Gulf of Maine is heating up faster than any other body
Body
of
of
water.
water, right?
Like,
Worldwide.
worldwide.
Right,
Yeah.
which is astounding. What was I gonna? I was just gonna say.
Funny.
Oh, so this is what I was going to say. So my small sample size of 10 years or almost 11 years doing the blog, whenever there's a curious sea creature, it makes generally, unless I'm so busy that I just can't take the time to photograph it, it makes the blog, which is fairly a pretty good source,
Right.
because we deal with more lobstermen in the city than anyone else does. So I have a pretty good idea
Of how many
of
are being
what
caught.
times of year strange things happen.
Right.
Normally, July, the end of the middle of July, every year, because I go back, we get these strange, like species that really shouldn't be this far up here. Over the years, we had triggerfish, dory, now the bonita, but this is
That's so interesting.
September.
Right. Right. That's so interesting.
Yeah, but usually, like I when I look back in the archives,
Huh.
it's July.
I'm gonna look back and try to correlate that to see about like birds and butterflies.
Could be water temperature every year at that time.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Right, because it's pretty warm then, because that's when the Gulf is coming.
Right.
Right? Isn't that when the Gulf is? Because then that's when the water's the warmest on the Cape too. Like I think, and we don't get that affected. The only time we're affected by the Gulf, I think, is in July when we feel those warm Gulf waters coming in. Otherwise, it's more like just ambient air temperature that makes the water warm. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely. So I've always just assumed, after like 5 or 6 years of seeing this recurring pattern of the strange species being landed or caught and shown to me in July, that it was, because of the water temperature, that they went a little bit further north because of the water temperature.
Right,
But
and
you
think of
know-
all the whales we've had this year too. Like,
The whales up
Whales.
against, right? 'Cause
Yeah, amazing.
all the baits up against
Yeah.
the rocks.
yeah.
But,
Everything's-
one of the things I learned is that when they say the water temperature in the Gulf of Maine has increased, they're measuring it not at the surface but 150 feet down.
Oh.
Over
Interesting.
3 years, it's been I don't know how many degrees, but it's pretty substantial.
Oh, I
So,
didn't realize
like
that.
in the creeks, in the marshes, it's the water temperature is like 74.
Right,
It
it's
comes
always
in, it's only 6 feet deep
deep,
at
right.
most, and it heats right up and it goes back out.
Right.
So
Well, there you go. Jimmy, who was it? Jimmy, you spoke to the owners of Last Stop Variety?
Yeah,
The place is for sale. We knew
Yes.
that it was for sale.
Yeah.
And they're looking to put like a retreat house or something at the old St. Mel's. Is that right?
Well, she was talking about basically the business itself.
Okay.
She was talking about that she wanted to keep the business and was hoping somebody would walk in and basically take over everything. She didn't really tell me about plans
Oh, okay.
for the whole area.
Yeah.
But she was definitely talking about the business area, that she knows she has great clientele, a lot of people are saying things. She's getting a lot of different offers, she told me. So she's just sitting back.
And waiting for somebody who wants to keep it a variety store.
I think what she
Oh,
wants
that's
is a certain thing.
Right, that's nice. That's
A certain
nice.
thing.
Right.
Very descriptive.
Yes.
Right.
So by a certain type of thing, what are we thinking?
Well, when I go in there, I love the pastries and the sandwiches are right there and stuff. Yes, they have a store with all different crafts, and they have a general store in the back. I noticed that they have drinks and probably some food you can get, whatever. But I think what she said to me was she was kind of hoping somebody would just basically come in and keep it up, because so many of the clientele has said they like what's there. It's just, she said it's been 9 years.
Yeah, she's
And
done.
It's time that
She's
she'd
done.
like to move on. She said she has a great plan. There's a big plan she has, and it's time.
Yeah, I'll tell you, if God, let's all pray that whenever she decides she's done, or whatever the next step is for that particular space, is that it stays a little bakery kind of coffee shop,
Commercial,
because
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we
right.
we
Absolutely.
lost East Gloucester Variety,
Yep.
and
Jake's.
yeah, so
Oh, right, homemade little pastries. Yeah. Oh, how about Sandpiper Bakery? Also,
Don't take them away from the right at the top of the hill where I work. Please let them stay right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. I just let's just hope. Let's just hope, because those are what little places like that make a community a community.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely right.
Absolutely.
The Columbia Gas was the gas. It wasn't National Grid,
no,
I
it's not
guess.
National Grid. Right.
In was it the Merrimack Valley?
Merrimack Valley area. So it's Andover,
Explosions and fires.
right, Andover, North Andover, and Lawrence. Right. So
Horrific.
Yeah.
Did they get a final count of how many explosions and
the
fires there
last
were?
I heard was 70.
Yeah.
Did anybody hear more than that? No.
I think
That's
that's what I heard.
Well,
That's incredibly
I think
widespread.
That's
I think it's
incredibly
I didn't even know that
incredibly
was
scary.
possible in this day and age.
Right,
We heard there
right.
was 70 fires, but we also heard that there were a lot of little ones that people were home and they put it out themselves,
Oh my God.
because all of a sudden the furnace, they
The furnace goes out and you light a candle.
and they
that's how you
right,
start
they
it.
smelled something or whatever, and then they got out, or they turned off their own because
Yes.
people were home. The big one that they showed about was the fireman that went out because he got the call to go to some other places, and his place blew up.
How do you even go to sleep? How do you go to sleep at night?
I have friends who are going back to their house in Andover today. They were evacuated as a precaution, and they are nervous about going back and falling asleep in their house.
That's what.
Right.
And
This
there's
is
no power.
what you're saying, right?
There's no electricity.
There's still no power.
They're turning the
I
power
also
on
read
slowly
that
but
this
surely.
company, Columbia, has had this happen 3 other times
Yeah.
What?
in other places.
They need to go away.
Pressurized,
Right.
over too much pressure in the lines.
In the line, they're from Columbus, Ohio, right? And for some reason, where does this is what I couldn't figure out. Like, so all this pressure shoots through the lines from Ohio. Where is this pressure originating from?
I've never really. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but now I really am happy I have propane.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because we've always wanted natural gas to come down our
Well,
street.
no. When I was renovating my house, I was like, I made the phone call because, if they would have put the line to my house for free, I would have done it.
Me too.
And they said it's going to cost. The number that they sent me was at a time they would have. If there was so many houses, they would have brought it down the street. I guess whatever. I mean, it's just.
Well, we have gas furnace,
Yeah.
still.
After the Eastern Avenue blow up a few years ago, National Grid has been incredible, and Public Utilities Commission in renewing the lines throughout the city. It's been a pain in the neck for traveling, but they are
Serious
on
on-
overdrive to get new lines in.
Well, Columbia Gas was fired by Governor Baker
Yeah.
they're not allowed to work on the cleanup.
That's right.
He
Right.
he hired another agency
Right.
to come in and basically, I think the way he put it is clean up their mess.
Right.
Everide, I think he put
Ever.
another gas company in.
Really?
Yeah,
Already?
to take over,
Yes.
which
And so
I think
Right.
I think was
Warranted.
necessary.
Warranted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some local efforts for collecting up donations and things like that. One of which was with Eileen Duff, whom I don't know, but I've seen her name pop up as regards to collecting for donations, and she's asking that things be dropped off at 2 Duncan Street. And she'll get them. She'll get them in to the people that need them.
Did anybody do a post about this yet?
Donna put a post about a drive that was going
And there's
on
a clothing
also.
drive. Yeah.
Clothing drive.
Okay,
yeah.
so we can
Yeah.
link to that. All right. I'm just going to put a little note to link to that.
So
Rockinneck is also Rockinneck Cultural Center is doing something.
they are.
Oh, are they? I didn't see that yet.
Yeah.
See, I one of my gardens is at a school in Andover, and it serves that whole area. Even though it's at Phillips Academy, it serves that whole area. So I called the director, and I haven't heard back from her. So I'm just hoping that, I would love to put her in touch with the kids, with the clothing drive for the kids when, if I can get a hold of her. I'm a little,
Well, power,
yeah.
Incredible. It's just such a weird, in this
So,
day and
it
age.
was a
You
little
just think that
scary.
we're past
It was
anything
scary
like
to
this
watch
being
it
able to happen.
develop.
Right?
We were watching it develop, and it was scary.
Yeah.
Minute by minute thing. You're glued to the TV, and you don't know what's going to happen next. And they kept
What was happening locally at the same time? Because that kind of took second.
the
The
hurricane.
hurricane
Okay.
was.
Oh, the hurricane. This
Right.
preempted the hurricane.
Yes,
People
it
around
did.
here weren't even
Locally,
talking about the
right.
hurricane.
Right.
Normally, people like older
Yeah.
folks or whatever would
Yeah.
be glued to the
Right.
to
They
Weather
were-
Channel watching
Right.
that.
Right, they were
and
glued
they
to
were,
this.
it was
6 or 12
nonstop.
hours went by, and I said, I have no idea where the hurricane is.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Insane. Congratulations to Elise and Tucker Smith, our friends from Cedar Rock Gardens that got married yesterday. Nubar was there.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful ceremony.
So old Italian men, this is what they do when they talk about weddings. How was the food? Was the food all right?
The food, every part of the food was unbelievable. Just so
sure.
delicious.
Yeah.
But mostly the two of them have created this amazing community, and their family is like 250 people, and it was really like that.
Fantastic. Great. We're happy for them.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for them. Yeah.
I thought that they were, I think I told them the last time they were in here that I thought that they had been married. You corrected me. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I just assumed that you guys had been, they were like old souls together. So on the other side of the spectrum, I'm sorry to hear about the passing of Vinny Cafaso.
Yeah, he's our neighbor.
On Plum Street.
On Plum Street, a lovely gentleman. He and his wife Kay, we would see them every day, walking, going for walks up and down Plum Street. Always a friendly word to say, and just very sweet family.
John, did you know Vinny?
I knew him because my kids had him as a principal at one point in time, and he was always walking along East Main Street, very friendly, knew his wife. Nice. Cavazos are great.
Yeah, really nice family.
Yeah. His
4 daughters, I think, and a son.
Yeah. His brother was a Joey Shimataro. He was the hub of local news on WESX
Oh wow.
for years growing up out of Salem.
Oh.
All about Gloucester.
There you go.
Everything.
Oh, interesting.
God bless him. A strange kind of segue here, but I wanted to speak about. We're just getting press releases from Trio now. They're doing a Monday through Thursday $9.99 specials, a different special every day. Pat and Jimmy decided to not take advantage of the special and go on Friday night. But tell me about your experience there.
We had guests in town, so we definitely wanted to take them to the Italian restaurant, given Jim's heritage. And we went down. We had a lovely time. I got the special appetizer was buffalo scallops, which were really good, big, yummy. Jim got the haddock Italiano, which is always a good choice. It was about 6:30 when we got there with the intention of eating outside, but it's been kind of, the weather this past week was a little shaky on that ground, so we stayed inside so that he could watch the baseball game on TV. And
Nice.
at the bar area,
I like where your head's at.
Yeah,
I like where your head's at.
And by the time that we left, it was quite full in there. They were quite busy moving around and stuff. So friendly atmosphere. The food was good. We had a great time.
That's a beautiful
We didn't
space.
feel rushed in any way. Oh yeah, I love going in there. I mean, it's just so
you know, they
relaxed.
basically have 2 sections. You walk in and there's the dining area, and then toward the back is the bar area. But trust me, those seats around there is just as good to have a meal and hold conversations. Because sometimes you get the bar crowd, maybe they're a little bit loud because they're really getting involved. You know, like maybe the Mets would score more runs than the Red Sox.
I
So
knew you
that-
couldn't help yourself.
Yeah.
You couldn't help
Can
yourself.
I throw that in?
You couldn't help yourself. Jimmy works for the Mets.
Yeah. So, anyway, it is really nice to talk to, and there's a lot of great seats. And
Also nice that the Red Sox took the series.
well, they took
Not
last
yet,
night,
right?
today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll just throw out there the Grom needs to win today so he can get the Cy Young. Let's just put that out.
we have Susan Coviello stepped in.
We do.
She's flying solo. Usually when we have the Cape Ann Plein Air people in here, there's a gang.
Right, Karen Ristaben, is she still involved in it? And
Karen
Chad?
is on the advisory committee,
Right,
so
yeah.
for the first 2 years, Karen was the project manager.
Okay.
And then she got her really wonderful job with the Essex County Foundation, and she's doing fundraising for creative economy around Essex County. So she had to step away from the project manager's job, and and they asked me to do it, and I said yes, I would do it. So I've
You're
actually
the
I
project
filled in.
manager.
I filled in for Karen. Chuck sends his apologies. He is unable to be here. He had an unexpected opportunity to go away for the weekend.
He's dead to us.
Absolutely, and believe me, that's who I'm texting right now.
Did you tell him? Did you
James
tell me?
I'm going to. James Caveston emailed me this morning. He couldn't come, so they just left it up to me.
They left it
The
all on
newbie,
your
they
shoulders.
left it up to the non-artist in the crowd.
So
You're
tell
gonna
us,
do
tell
it.
us. This has just been growing from the get go. It gets bigger and bigger each year, right?
Yes, so this is only our 3rd year, and within with the first 2 years, we had 100 artists apply, 130 artists apply. This year, we had 189 artists from around the world apply. We had applications from Russia and China and Japan and all over the United States and Europe, and we have an impartial juror who does it all online. We have nothing to do with the
Nice.
vetting of the artists.
Now, do you keep a couple slots for locals?
Yes, we do. So the slots, so there's an alternate list, and that's where the locals come in. But we had 2 local artists get vetted into the 36 that were
That's
picked.
tremendous.
Yes, so John
Ken-
Caggiano and Ken Knowles were both back in again this year. And then the alternates, we have Alan Bull, he is from Newburyport, and a couple of other artists who are local. So we
No Jeff Weaver?
Jeff didn't apply.
He didn't.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
sometimes the artists are busy and they look at the calendar a whole year in advance, and if
Yeah.
they know that October's busy for them and they can't make that time commitment, then they don't apply.
Gloucester's greatest painter.
Yeah, well, Ken Knowles is coming in hot.
Right.
Coming in hot. Ken Knowles is no joke.
Yeah.
Some of those murals he does.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Outrageous. Yeah. But this Cape Ann the plein air is a movement right now. It seems like around the world, they're having these. A lot of these people are applying to the best shows all over the country, and actually, it seems like it's a job for them. They're traveling.
It's
like
their career.
It's their career.
It
They're
is.
traveling.
Yeah.
They're selling and
And
exploring,
they
and
must be doing well because
it's just,
Well,
yeah.
not only do they have the opportunity to sell their art, but they also have the opportunity to win prizes. One of the things I love about Cape Ann Plein Air so much is the local support, the financial support that we have from Applied Materials and Engel and Volkers, and many businesses who have sponsored awards. We give over $21,000 in awards, and that puts us in the top 3 or 4 in the country.
Ooh,
For
so you
total
get some
number of
talent.
prizes. Total number of prizes. It's
Wow.
over $21,000.
and they get to come to Gloucester.
And they get to come to all of Cape Ann. They get to stay in Cape Ann.
Just like the actors at the stage company, half of the actors take the gig not for the money, trust me, because they love to come to Gloucester in the summer, and we get this incredible talent that wants to be here,
Right.
along the same lines.
Right.
I have to tell you, I mean, I would love, as another movie I'd love to make is on Cape Ann Plein Air. I mean, every time, and I mentioned it to Karen when she was involved, and Chuck. I mean, every time it's going on, everywhere I go, I see painters everywhere, all over Cape Ann.
Let's talk about that, Nubar. I love that idea.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, what a film that would make.
This is the birthplace of plein air painting in America.
Right.
Gloucester and Rockport is the birthplace.
Is it really? I
So
didn't
you
know
could-
that.
You could do it from so many different angles, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Island, all different light, all different times of the day.
Yes,
You get the
yes.
sunrise, you get the sunsets.
I actually have it in my head now that I've seen it. Like I don't know how many years it's been going on, but I can see the film in my head. I mean, like how I would, who
The storyboard.
Storyboard.
Yeah.
Thank you, yeah.
Very
It's
cool.
incredible.
She
Wow.
surreptitiously takes out a business card
Look
and
at
across
this.
the table.
Thank you.
So it starts on the artists. You're very welcome. The artists come in on October 7th. The opening night is in Essex. One of the things that we love is a great collaboration between the museums and the local art associations for this whole Cape Ann wide event. They will come in on Sunday. They paint during the week. Every evening we're trying to entertain them in some way or another, feed them. They love to get free food. Tuesday night, Charles Gallery is hosting an open gallery reception where the artists will be featured. They'll be there. Public is welcome. It's a wonderful, beautiful event. Friday night, we're doing a clam bake at the Gloucester House. And if you can listen to Lenny's beautiful stories about Gloucester for about a half an hour, after that you get to have a lobster dinner with the artists. And that's $30 for non-artists, and that's open to the public as well.
Oh, that sounds
And then, of
That's a
course,
great
Saturday,
idea.
yeah, it's really, really fun. And Alan Estes is actually going to be there. Many of the artists are bringing their musical instruments, and they're sort of going to hopefully have a jam. That'll be the first time that we're adding that.
So I got an invitation to that via email from Chuck.
I did too, yeah.
Do you have to have an invitation, or is it open to the public?
You got an invitation to the
Just to
Friday
the
night
Gloucester House.
dinner?
Yeah.
No, it's open to the public.
It's open to the
yes,
public.
Yes,
yep,
Okay.
yeah.
yep.
So that's
$30.
a public thing.
Yep.
Okay.
And then Saturday night, North Shore Art Association is hosting the gala, and that's when the artists have they can bring up to 8 paintings, 5 to hang, 3 in reserve in case they're sold off the wall during the evening. We can replace them, and those tickets are $65 now through September 30th, and then they go up to $75 after that.
And there's limited number of tickets, so get them now.
Right.
CapeAnnPleinair.com. You can get the tickets online,
Right.
Okay.
right?
Right.
And then that night is the awards exhibition and gala at the North Shore Art Association. Sunday, what happens?
Oh, Sunday's really exciting. So Sunday is the quick draw or wet paint. The artists, and this is not open, just the Kappa artists will be part of it, but we also open it up to anybody, another 80 artists, whoever wants to come and paint. Well, they'll be signing up in Rockport. Well, they sign up ahead of time. They check in Rockport from 7 to 9 a.m. And from 9 to 11 a.m. they paint in the Rockport Cultural District area, and they can only paint for 2 hours. We blow a horn.
that.
They have to frame their art. They have to bring it back to Rockport Art Association. We hang them. They're judged, and then again, that is open and free to the public to come from 1 to 5 to see the wet paint. It's literally wet paint. You don't know how many times I put my fingers in beautiful paintings, and you can buy the art right off the walls. So that's another really exciting time.
There's so many ways to be involved in this.
Yeah.
So many ways, and that really involves a lot of local artists, even local artists who may not want to apply for the big thing, but they can certainly come and be part of that. We have juried and non-juried prizes. Again, those are sponsored by local, very wonderful local arts patrons and businesses.
Engels and Volker, I haven't mentioned them yet, but they that was Sotheby's by the Sea, right?
Right.
Karen Hansen's
that's
Warren's girlfriend's
company.
company.
So did she take it over? Like, is it her company? I don't know.
I think I'm not sure how it worked out, but whoever worked for Sotheby's by the Sea, I believe, is now under the umbrella of Engels and Volker.
So she went from one real international real estate company to another.
Oh,
so
okay.
she's still by the sea. She's Engels and Volker's by the sea.
Okay.
Many of her folks went with her to Engels and Volker, and they are a diamond sponsor for us this year. So we have Applied Materials, who is our presenting sponsor, and Engel and Volker is very generously are supporting us as well.
Thank you for mentioning your sponsors.
Yeah.
So many people come in
I have a whole list.
and they talk about,
Yeah, that's
they talk about their event, and they don't mention the people that really
make it happen.
make it happen. I mean, I understand the volunteers, like what you do is obviously is so important, but we have a lot of generous benefactors in our community, and so often it bothers me that people come in and they talk about all the work that they're doing and don't give credit to the sponsors. It drives me nuts.
And they're listed in the book, so there are lots of sponsors.
And this
Grace
book
Code.
is worthwhile to keep on your. It's a coffee table worthy book.
Right.
It's really it has a little bit about each different artist, some examples of their work.
And that book is the 2018 catalog, I think.
Yes, and I can actually bring some up to the visitor center.
That's a great idea.
I think I'm out of them in my car, but I do have brochures as well. I'll make sure that they're up there.
So, Susan, where can people get more information?
Well, the best place to go really is the website. We also have a very active Facebook page, so if you look on Cape Ann Plein Air on Facebook, you'll find a calendar of events and all of that on there. It's very easy to find. The booklets and brochures are all over the 4 communities, especially in the arts community. So North Shore Art Association, Rockport Art Association, the Essex Shipbuilding Museum, Museum in Manchester, the Trask House. So they're all over, but really the website's probably the best place.
Thank you for coming in. I'll link to those. I'll link to the Facebook page and the website for Cape Ann Plein Air.
Great, thank
Appreciate
you so
coming
much.
in. John,
Yes.
we're going to finish up with this.
Okay.
You've been involved with Gloucester Marine Genomics Institute
From the beginning.
It's one of these things that another feather in the cap of our community. And can you tell me where the building that's next to Rose's Marine is? We got a press release. Where am I? Right here for the ribbon cutting, October 30th, 2018.
Yeah, Joey, I think Chris Moncombe, the chief of operations, said to me the other day, Joey's on the top of my list. So I think that press release was an invitation to you to come over, or else you're going to get one. That's all.
No, we got it. And Kim and David Cox, I believe, are going to go.
We're gonna go photograph
Because
it.
I won't be able to get away from the dock unless it's a storm.
Okay.
But Tuesday, October 30th,
Right.
from 11 to 12, the and it's amazing. Windover did the construction, right?
You go by there at 12 o'clock at night, they're working.
They're-
You go by there today on a Sunday and they're working. They have been
They're phenomenal, aren't they?
terrific, yeah. And the company changed ownership during all of this. It was from a private corporation to an employee-owned corporation in Aesop, and but that didn't slow. I think things intensified in terms of the
Yeah,
the
because
work
it's
of it.
employee owned now. Isn't
Yeah.
that awesome?
That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Isn't that
They built,
fantastic?
they were responsible. They were the builders at the Beauport Hotel as well, right?
Yeah, Beauport
Yeah.
Hotel and so many other
So many others.
projects.
Let's get back to GMG.
Yeah.
this is a large. How many square feet? Do you know? Do you know how many square feet that building
I
is?
think it's over 20,000. GMGI has taken a portion of the building.
Right.
A lot. The other space will be available to marine industrial uses, but I think we're taking maybe a third of the building over. It should be. It's where we're going to have our R&D, our biogenetics, under the leadership of Chris Moncombe, Michelle May, who's the president and chair of the board of directors. And the academy is going to stay up in John McNibbs at Cape Ann Industrial Park, Blackburn, and that's underway right now under Dr. John Doyle and Joe Rosa, who is volunteer professor, who is absolutely terrific, and you know him through the
Maggie
Gloucester
Rosa.
Education
Yeah, of course,
Foundation.
yeah.
And he just pulls the go button and goes, and very quietly, almost an electric engine, and keeps it going.
What opportunities for our youth, though? You talk about the kind of things that you want in our city, right? Like the kind of jobs that you want and stuff like that. What a seed!
What a seed.
I cannot
What
go
a seed.
to their graduations. This is they're 5 years old. This is their third class right now. I can't go to their graduations without a box of Kleenex. I'm talking,
Yeah.
the stories of these young students is it's such a intellectual, emotional driven charge from people that were not intellectually driven before. One of the students is who was on her way to the edge of the cliff this year is working at MIT in biogenetics in one of the leading
Opportunity.
labs in the world, and she had 4 jobs, $10 an hour jobs, and here she is. And I'm so proud of the academy, but also proud of her and all of the graduates. It's really something.
Really pulls at your heartstrings.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that. Did you? What are your chances that you're gonna be able to show up for that?
Oh yeah, that's definitely.
Okay,
Things
so
will,
I'm hoping that you
Yeah.
will be able to get some really. You'll be able to capture some, the
Right.
for the students.
yeah,
Yeah.
if the video of talking about it would be
right,
fantastic.
I noticed it said it really starts at 10:30, right? It doesn't say 11.
It says 11 on
But
this.
then in the
Yeah.
corner it says 10:30, so I thought I would just get
Yeah.
there early.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure.
fantastic.
But the community has been really supportive. Volunteer help, individual donations, private donations, and then Ann Margaret Ferranti, Bruce, Fadia, the school committee, Paul Lundberg at the city council have all got behind. It's required a big movement to get this going.
I would imagine. Yeah,
And they love coming down here, and
they have an open invitation.
Yeah,
They know that,
anytime,
right?
Right.
So there we go. All right, John. Thank you. I know you have to
thank
get to
you.
church. Susan, Nubar,
Thank
Pat,
you.
and Jimmy,
Thank you.
Kim.
Good seeing you.
What a great day.
John.
Thanks again.
Great day, Gloucester.
Thank you.
Bye.